Well, hello there, good people. Hi. I'm Jason with the Green Country Agri-Forestry. Of course, it's Wednesday, 7:30 p.m., and that means that it's time for yet another live stream. Oh, hello. I see we got some people out here in the audience. Hi, how's everybody doing? I'm indoors today because it's just hot and muggy and miserable outside. I hope the air conditioners, we have two now, going aren't too loud, and you guys can hear okay. How dare you come in on time, says Chris. Well, hello, everybody. We got Chris in here. We've got Altruistic Homestead, Vicky Savage. Hello, Vicky. All right. And some more people coming in, lurking in the background. Cheers. Good evening to you. Hopefully that little bit of music that I played at the beginning won't wind up with a copyright claim. If it does, we'll just have to edit it out. But I might go ahead and sing the lyrics that go with that later on, if you guys want. I will most certainly have to edit it out later on. Hello, Moon Sprouts and Sassafras Red. Hi. I'm enjoying a nice cold beverage today on this otherwise fairly hot, just short of 90-degree day here in northeastern Oklahoma. Mary ordered up some ice cube trays for me this past week, and they arrived, and it's an ice cube tray that makes round ice cubes, so perfectly round ice cubes. I'm experimenting with those. They're fun. Hello, Ginger Avers. For you guys that don't know, say hello to Ginger. Ginger is my daughter's mother, the ex-wife, who is a wonderful person, incidentally. You're wondering why we're not still married. It's because the things that we admired about each other are also the things that make it impossible for us to live together, which is I'm stubborn and I have to have my way, and so is she. Oh. Sean is listening and processing rabbits. Wow. Son Milo says you got Milo in the chat in the chat, and Mary says seed level. Oh, awesome. You're drinking kombucha. Nice. And Vicky says driveway was started yesterday and finished it. Wow, nice. Yeah, you want to get your gravel, or if you can afford to, have it packed down and pave it if at all possible. It's nice that the county will provide some of the labor. I remember whenever my folks had the road going from the county access road to their house done, they hired an independent contractor to come out, and they went ahead and just paved the entire thing, which is not as expensive as you might think. Whenever there are people out there that want to earn a living paving roads, they'll take any work they can get. Ginger says, hello, Daddy. Much love to you. Is Jessica there with you? Oh, incidentally, Ginger, or if Jess is there, I ran into, who was it we ran into yesterday? Help me out. Mary. Anna. We ran into Anna yesterday. She's working at the dollar store out there by Mary's dentist. So we ran into the kitty's mama, wherever the kitty ran off to. I thought I saw her here a minute ago. Moonsprouts just had 4 litters of meat rabbit. Nice, nice, nice. And she says hello. Oh, well, hi. Hi. All right, so we got a couple of people in today, so I'm going to get started talking about today's topic. As you know, I don't really like to talk about problems, but I do like to talk about solutions. Sometimes to talk about the solutions, we have to bring up what the problem is. Now, you guys saw the thumbnail picture. Jess got a new job at Dollar General. Cool. All right. So Jess and Anna are both now working for the same company. All right. So I have to talk about what the problem is. You guys saw the thumbnail, that beautiful lake, and it was beautiful. But those beautiful lakes, and there are so many of them here in the United States, and probably a lot more farther abroad. It's just I was only looking at the data for the U.S. lakes because they're of immediate concern to me. Currently, we have over 91,000 dams on the rivers of the United States of America. 91,000 of them. 70% of them are over 50 years old, which means the manufacturing methods that were used to produce these bridges were not bridges. I'm getting ahead of myself. Manufacturing procedures used to produce the dams are a little bit out of date. So 50 plus over the next 3 months. Are you talking about maintenance work that you've got coming up? Because this is kind of the important part. Those dams are getting old, and the money supply, although it's being inflated, doesn't buy as much as it used to. Whenever the dams were first built, 50 some odd years ago, in the case of a large number of them, the cost of labor was cheap. Now the cost of labor is not cheap, at least not skilled labor. And some of these, particularly things like, say the Hoover Dam, would require very specialized labor and equipment to get down there to do repairs on them. As a result, a lot of these dams just aren't getting the maintenance that they need. So they're very slowly eroding. And we got news that the one upstream from us at Keystone a few years ago was beginning to lose its spillway. Yeah, that's not a comforting thought, because we can imagine what would happen if the dam were to give way and all that water would come rushing down the waterway to where we live here on the river bottom. Where I live might actually, at that point, get some flooding. Chris says, damn right, my skilled labor is keeping up with inflation, take it or leave it. And of course, that is the problem. The money supply is inflated, which means things cost more. It costs more now to do the repairs than it did in previous times. But those dams still keep on trudging along and generating revenue. 50 more rabbits coming up. Okay, good. They keep on generating the revenue that they're generating, and they're just not getting repaired. So we have the looming specter of dam failures ahead of us in the next half a century. That's something to worry about if you live downstream, but it's also, just at the same time we have adversity, we also have the potential for opportunity. So I want you to think about this. Over the next 50 years, we will have 8,000 dams across the United States passing the century mark. And of those dams, all of them currently are being rated by inspectors as being high hazard potential. High hazard potential. Great chance of some sort of failure. Of course, if that failure happens, downstream communities wind up getting flooded, massive property damage, which of course leads to an issue for the people responsible for the dam, in this case, hydroelectric power companies, etc. They're on the hook for a lot of damages should those dams fail, which means they're going to be going out of business. What does that mean? Well, that means all the property belonging to the hydroelectric company will become for sale at fire prices, at bargain prices. Also, the people who lose their homes are going to be looking for new homes. They're going to be looking for an immediate injection of cash to get them someplace other than the Holiday Inn, provided, of course, they don't get killed in the process. Of course, they'll be waiting on their settlements from insurance companies, so on and so forth. So once again, the area that's destroyed by the flooding, also bargain sale prices, fire sale prices, easy to get a hold of. And if you're wanting to do a large-scale project in a river valley, looking for one of these opportunities would probably be in your best interest, but you have to be able to act on it when it occurs. So again, it's horrible to contemplate dam failures and how hard it will be for people who lived in the flooded areas and also for the people who are shareholders of the cooperatives, the electric companies. But with that adversity comes the opportunity for us to get our hands on fairly inexpensive land that is great for agricultural and horticultural purposes. Of course, all the towns and communities have highway access right next to where the dams are. So there will be highway access. And of course, the river running through it means ample water supply. All of these are wonderful. So let me see here. What's SAS Press Red saying? Locks minimum 3 years to build. Dams probably 5 years per dam. There are not enough people can or will learn to do the work. Oh, yeah. And of course, there's the problem of, well, how do we go about repairing the infrastructure that we already have? Building a massive hydroelectric power plant where we have hundreds of feet of dam structure that has to be maintained produces one massive fail point. Whenever that particular dam gives way, there's nothing you can do about it, and it's very expensive to work on a large dam structure. A better idea might be to build several small dams, each one with a single turbine in it. Of course, this would make common sense, so, of course, we're not going to do that. Right. Yeah, Sean's right. It is engineers and contractors that ultimately wind up building the structure. And we have these old structures which are legacies from years past that we're having to deal with. It's not convenient to dismantle them a little bit at a time and rebuild the entire infrastructure. But after a catastrophic event, the opportunity does present itself for someone who was of an interest or a mind to come in and redo that hydroelectric system and redo a navigable waterway system and do it right. Chris says, I thought you were going to talk about the economic eventually collapsing and the coming real estate investment opportunity associated with that. Well, in a way, yes, but okay, so if we're talking about economic instability and economic collapse, we are witnessing that sort of a calamity occurring right now in real time, but it's a slow-moving catastrophe, if you follow what I'm saying. It's a slow-moving catastrophe. We're seeing it happen, but we're seeing it happen drawn out over an extended period of time. So, yeah, in a way, we are talking about that, but we're talking about a particular feature of that where you have the opportunity to actually really get into something big. All right. I don't know if I'm going to do any drawing today. I thought about maybe getting out the drawing tool and drawing an example is something that you could do if you were able to actually purchase a segment of River Valley from one ridge to the other ridge, everything in between, for an extended length. That's, of course, the opportunity that will present itself after a dam failure. You just have to be in the right position to take advantage of it. And it would help to know what would be a good thing to do with that section of River Valley if you can get your hands on the entire thing. Obviously, I have some ideas. But really quick, let's have a look and see what everybody's up to. Of course, we want to welcome Ginger Abers, new member of the seed level. And I suppose it's a good time for me to remind people that we do have memberships available to the channel. One of the things that we've recently made available to channel members, and this is to all channel members, is some of my personal writing. Yeah, I'm an author. Currently, I'm in the business of writing at a rate of about 5 pages a week, and I'm putting up 3 pages a week for channel members in the community section for this channel. And it's a story about the Mars colony recruiting now. I don't know what the title is going to be. That's just the working title. It's a cyberpunk type story with a hero that's going to be discovering some dark secrets about one of the world's most powerful corporations. In the meantime, he'll be learning more about the wonders of the natural world. So we're going to be blending a horticultural civilization together with a high-tech civilization and having some fun in cyberspace. and hopefully hitting a whole bunch of demographics at the same time with that particular tale. Okay. Vicky says the county road crew said they'd be delighted to provide the labor if I provide the culvert. I said we'll do it like the Holy Family lives here. No shortcuts. That's cool. Getting the road out to her place. So you've got a spring on the property that's up fairly high and it produces a lot of water. That's nice. I mean, especially if you've got that you can set up water catchments going downhill from. You've got a lot of opportunity to store water. Let's see. We have Suzanne Stack in the house. Hello, hello. Guard towers and rice paddies. Vicky says, why do we need to build massive dams? It's far more cost effective and ecological sound to build mini, micro, and nano hydro generators. I absolutely agree. That's actually the idea. Is as these big monstrosities fail, and they were built by people that probably weren't thinking about their eventual failure. They were just thinking about the jobs possibility that making a big project would offer. Instead of walling up all of this water and banking it, we should be building much, much smaller dams. If one of those happens to fail, or if one of those happens to need maintenance, then the overflow or the work can be put on another dam further down the stream without overwhelming the entire system. And there are other things that we can do whenever we have numerous low water dams, each providing a small increment of the power needed. I probably should get the sketchbook out either today or sometime in the future and show you kind of my dream of what you might do with that situation. Rusty Pepper says, I see you. Hello, Rusty Pepper. All right, what were you doing? I'm going to activate Nightbot real quick here. Let me go over here and read through. This is from National Geographic. All right, so this was in May of 2020 in Michigan. The Edenville Dam broke in Midland, and it caused an overflow that went all the way down to the Sanford Dam, and also caused the Sanford Dam downstream to fail. So it was actually two dam failures back to back. Let's see here. So that particular failure came after a deluge dumped nearly 5 inches of water on central Michigan in just 48 hours. As the waters rose, the nearly century-old Edenville Dam collapsed and sent a torrent downstream that overflowed the Sanford Dam. Water surged across roads and into homes and businesses. By Wednesday evening of that particular weekend, the flood had almost completely drained one lake upstream of the dams, leaving a vast, muddy expanse in its wake. Well, that's some serious economic disruption. Lots of property damage, even without fatalities. We hope that if we have dam failures like that, people are able to get out of the way of the worst of the damage and not suffer fatalities. But you still have massive economic damage wrecked by these failures. Homes have to be either abandoned, rebuilt, bulldozed. People have to find new places to live. The companies responsible for maintaining the dam are under incredible financial liability. And all of that means really good riverside property becomes available really cheap. That's the bright side of the picture. And of course, the other bright side of the picture is if it's purchased by somebody, hello kitty. Hi. Playing with the kitty. If it's purchased by somebody that has an inkling of what to do with it, then it can become something very net positive in the years to come. All right. Go back in here. All right, I'm reading here in National Geographic. Many dams across the nation, investment hasn't kept up with the repairs and upgrades needed to keep those systems standing strong. On the American Society of Civil Engineers report card for U.S. infrastructure, dams earned a D letter grade. And they say about 1 in 6 dams has a high hazard potential. 1 in 6, that's 15,500 deemed to cause loss of life and heavy economic damage in the event of failure. Both of the dams in Midland, Michigan had that particular rating. Of course, we don't really know how many U.S. dams are actually at risk of failing. Let me see here. Well, here's an idea of the costs. Repairing and upgrading dams across the U.S. would cost close to in the vicinity of $70 billion. That's a lot of money. And about 700 dams owned by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers alone would cost more than $25 billion and would take more than 50 years to complete based on the current level of funding. So the point of critical failure and the time that they are going to get repaired are going to pass by each other at some point. That means that there are going to be several opportunities in the future for people that are thinking ahead and saving up their acorns and being ready to jump on that opportunity whenever it presents itself. Vicky says, I can do stepped catchment in high spring and rainwater. There you go. North wall will be hillside subterranean walk-in fridge. And oh, that sounds wonderful, Vicky. Chris is asking if I'm doing merchandise. I'd probably get in trouble if I had to give it a shirt. Probably. Incidentally, Chris, yes. Here, I'll go ahead and insert a commercial. I do have merchandise that's available at greencountryagroforestry.com. greencountryagroforestry.com, all one word. We do have a shop there where you can buy t-shirts, and at the moment you can buy daylilies. The Hemerocallis fulva classic orange daylily is the one I have for sale right now. In the future, we'll have some other varieties of daylily available, some other flowers, perhaps things like redbud trees, peppermints, wintergreens, other things. Ooh, I'd love to show this to you, but I don't have it until tomorrow. Tomorrow I have a new tree arriving, which is going to be fun. The tree that I have arriving tomorrow will be a Tasmanian snowgum or a eucalyptus tree. At that point, we'll have all 4 of the components to Listerine available as herbs growing around the property. This is kind of fun. And I wanted to show you this one while I've got it. This little tiny flower, you see the little purple flowers there? Isn't that pretty? This little thing is now blooming. This is, anybody guess what plant this is? I started this one from seed this year. All right, let me take that out of review. Let somebody try to take a guess at what that plant is. Those are coming up. Our buckwheat is starting to bloom now too. Let me see. Mary says, Ginger, when you and hopefully Noodlehead visit, let Jason know. The purple room is a bit of, oh, yeah. Mary's been moving stuff into the purple room, so there's no room for a bed in it at the moment. But we do have a cot we can set up in the living room, so I need to crash in the living room. Oh, speaking of the web store, Nightbot just put up the address for our web store where we do have merchandising. Eventually, hopefully, we'll have some other things available there, including tools, things like the Hori knife that I love using. Excellent tool. I'd love to get a hold of a pallet of those, be able to sell them for cheap. Other tools, for example, these guys, hand sickles. Nice, sturdy, durable, and excellent for doing minor pruning and grass cutting work. Those, hopefully, eventually, whenever we can afford to buy the pallet lots from Alibaba, we'll be able to put those up for sale as well. Maybe some solar-powered water pumps things like that will be of interest and use for your gardening projects. Vicky is asking if I'd recommend any app for plant identification. No, a lot of times I can use a Google image search and search an image, take a picture of something, and then search the image itself. And Google is good enough to be able to give me a rough ballpark of the sort of things that it might be, and then I can go look at those suggestions and then look according to the taxonomy of the plant. Do I have that booklet anywhere nearby? Well, somewhere around here, I've got a plant identification booklet that gives you the words, the various portions of a plant to describe the leaves and the branches and everything else about the plant. And then you can look at those individual descriptors and narrow down your search until you know exactly what it is. So, yes, roundabout way of saying, I mean, take the picture and Google it. Google the picture itself. Full-Time Dream says, hello all. Yeah. Maybe Jason has a Bigfoot. Possibly. Maybe. Yeah. Show me the flower or something. It's a crying shame, says, can't comment much. Baking the Z plant meatballs and love to all. Moonsprat says, I use Picture This. It's a paid $2.99 a month, but the most accurate I've found. Okay, that's a good one. Picture This. Mary says she moved a lot of stuff. She was home too long. Well, I don't know about too long. She was home for a while. She was home from Friday through Tuesday, I think. Or Saturday through Tuesday. Longer than she usually is. She had a dentist appointment. That is very tasty. We experimented this weekend with making mojitos with Parrot Bay coconut rum. It's remarkably tasty. Okay. I stuck that one in the freezer before I finished making it, and the rum froze, so it's not really high proof, but very tasty. Of course, Nightbot wants to remind us the only difference between a problem and an opportunity is choice, and the choice is yours, which of course is exactly what we're talking about here. The problem being failing infrastructure that vexes all of us, especially those of us who live just a few miles downstream from an aging hydroelectric plant like the Keystone Dam. But the opportunity is, should one of those give out, which is likely to happen over the next half century, someone, if they're advised ahead of time, will be in an excellent position to capitalize on that problem and create an opportunity. Mary says the show is off the rails now. I didn't know the show was on rails to begin with. All right. More than 8,000 dams across the United States are over 90 years old. For example, the ones in Michigan, Midland, Michigan, that we were just talking about were built in the 1920s. Now, just because the dam is old doesn't necessarily mean that they're unsafe, but they do have to be maintained for integrity. And of course, the cost of maintenance has become a serious problem. Hi, kitty. The National Geographic article goes on to talk about some climate change issues that are not necessarily factual, but that's the prevailing attitude of the times, unfortunately. All right. What? Sean's talking about cannibalism. And Hello Garden says, hello, Jason. Hello, how to garden. Vicky says the Chinese character for crisis combines with characters for danger and opportunity. They're all related, aren't they? They are all related. Of course, being able to be in a position to take advantage of the situation means you need to have money to invest. I don't have money to invest. I am next to broke. I might have. Hang on. Let's see. Let's see how much I got. I have $20. I'm wealthy. I've got $20. I've got a bill of $30 a month for my website and $100 a month for internet, and we're getting maybe $25 a month from membership fees. So we're not quite in the black yet. Was I talking about cannibalizing? When was I talking about cannibalizing? In the literal or the figurative sense, Sasspress Red? Because there's probably a conversation to be had on either side of that. All right. Another thing I was talking about doing was getting my sketch pad up. At least you're not in the dark. Yeah, there's that. Figurative. Kitty, don't bite me. Jeez. Well, in a way, yeah, it is kind of cannibalizing. Well, taking advantage of a disaster to create something, in a way, is sort of cannibalizing. All of the space that's covered by a lake right now, a man-made lake right now, once that lake is drained, becomes a muddy mess. There's going to be millions of square acres, or millions of acres of land that is covered by silt and sediment, fish poop, really good fertilizer. It'll be fertile land, great to grow food in, but it will be a mess, and it'll have to have somebody poised to move in and do something with it. All right. Really quick, we're at the half-hour mark. I wanted to share a couple of lines from the story that I'm writing, so the people who are not channel members know kind of what some of the things channel members are getting. This is a story that I am tentatively calling Mars Colony Recruiting Now. Now in parentheses. And I'll begin just reading. I'm going to read you the first 2 pages, give you an idea about what I'm putting out about every other day. I'll be printing a page or putting a page out. Mars Colony Recruiting Now. All professions needed. Schedule your screening today. The virtual ad screamed in shifting hues of purple, green, and gold, those colors that the ad bot calculated would most appeal to the current viewer. Ernest Milton lifted his right arm and lazily swiped the virtual pop-up off of his board. Third one today, he muttered, adjusting his settings to automatically block future ads from MCC Incorporated. Mars Colony Central was everywhere these days. One of the advantages of paying a subscription to a media handling service enabled the blocking of any and all paid advertisements, nearly all virtual property as well, for a low monthly fee. To offset the cost of that convenience, Ernest occasionally performed some odd jobs, such as bored. Ernest spoke aloud to no one in particular. The verbal command serving to activate his media handling programs. Bypassing the eyes, the wetware installed within his head began to feed the image of a flashing dot through his optic nerves, the resulting animation appearing overlaid upon his normal vision, a sort of enhanced reality. The dot indicated that the various wares installed were prepared to receive commands. GeoNews, local view, range, he thought a moment before continuing, 10 minutes walking distance. Now the display showed a series of small boxes, data tabs that appeared to hover in midair in association with many of the real-world features within Ernest's field of view. His filtering preferences had the tabs set to only 40% opacity, making them easy enough to find if he was looking for them, but easy enough to ignore as well. By attempting to touch any of the tabs, he could prompt the handler to display additional information about whatever he was looking at. Shoe sales, he said. Now the flashing indicator became a soft, bluish-hued arrow, pointing off to Ernest right. As he began to turn his head in that direction, the arrow settled on one tab labeled Abernathy and Sons Fine Footwear. A quick touch revealed that the establishment in question was indeed a boutique foot store, or a boutique shoe store. Not reading properly. A boutique shoe store. It was open and did, in fact, have for sale at this very moment shoes within Ernest Milton's size range. He paused a moment as a striking, golden-haired maiden walked by. The virtual skin that she wore was clearly her own, perhaps a year or two younger, and dressed in what appeared to be a 15th century lady's gown. Aside from the virtual skin and a pair of sturdy shoes, the lady wore not a stitch else. As the woman passed, neither she nor Ernest showed any indication that they had seen each other. Scarcely odd, because although Ernest's filters allowed him to see through the layer of virtual clothing, his own skin was anonymous, a generic, featureless blank. There's no reason why anyone would notice a blank, or for a blank to expect to be noticed. Upon passing, the woman turned into a nearby park where some sort of fantasy event was taking place. And that's the end of page 1. Let me jump back over here. That was the first page of the story as it's told. And it goes downhill from there, of course. Let me back up and see what everybody's talking about. Chinese characters of 2 pigs under a roof means prosperity. Of 2 women under a roof means contention. I don't know. 2 women under a roof might mean discord. Perceptive people, the Chinese. Mary's saying there's a reason ancient Egypt rarely had a famine, and that was where most people went to during a famine. Well, yeah, they had plenty of water. They had plenty of fertilizer from the river flooding on a regular basis. Sassafras Red says, wouldn't all the sediment be laden with the toxic runoff from years of land abuse around the lake and far upstream? That's a possibility. I think an enterprising person might want to arrange to have some surveys of the lake bottoms performed before they speculate on whether or not they might want to invest in that particular property in the event of a failure. That way, at least you'd have that information ahead of time. Whenever the event occurred, you could move in and be ready to act immediately. It might be hard to get out there and take samples after the fact. Possibly, maybe. Sassafras Red says, my local lakes will be filled with fertilizer and pesticide, maybe from products banned years ago. I mean, that is always a possibility. There's a possibility some things may have settled down in the low areas. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to get some soil samples off the bottoms of the few lakes if you happen to know that the infrastructure around those is old and not being properly maintained. Mary is saying, I heard all that stuff went to the ocean and causes algae blooms. A lot of it does, but not all of it. There's likely to be some stuff, particularly heavy metal particulates or heavy metals, that are going to settle. And Sassafras Red says, dilute, not sure. That's a lot of mustard greens and oyster mushrooms for remediation. Well, oyster mushrooms and also things like the salicylic soda for an annual that you can plant to remove salts if you have a problem with salt buildup, or if you have a more arid location, you can try salt bush to remove salt from the soil. There are other ways of removing salts from the soil than just having them flush out, and that's something that we can look into. I would love to have some of those plants around here. I just don't have a lot of space for it. Mary says, naked ladies. Sorry, new girl in the story. 5 women under roof makes a Waffle House. I just thought that starting out the story with a little bit of titillation at the beginning would be fun. Of course, one of the things we're noticing is in this particular example of a fictional civilization, it's not considered odd that the woman in question, she's in a city, is in actuality walking around without any clothes on. It's warm enough, she's comfortable, she doesn't need the clothes for protection. But the fact that everybody is looking through a digital filter and seeing what she's projecting instead of what's actually there means that she's able to walk around with nothing on, and all people see is a nice fine gown, except for our hero protagonist Ernest, who is paying well enough that he can see what's really going on under normal circumstances. But as we will see, Ernest's view of the world is about to take a radical shift into fantasy land as he turns and also enters the park. All right. Sasspress Red says, I remember in Fayetteville when they had a leak from a chrome plating plant that leaked into the White River, which runs to Beaver Lake. Woof. And there is no downstream from that. Yikes. Yeah. I was talking with Vicky not too long ago. I spent a lot of time around the White River, Table Rock Lake, Taneycomo Lake. I was just about a sixth of a mile off of, or maybe an eighth of a mile off of Lake Taneycomo up the hillside from there. And then there's Bull Shoals downstream. And my parents also had a little piece of property that was just off of Bull Shoals, but it abutted to the portion of the lake that the Army Corps of Engineers had declared off limits for construction. Basically one ridge to the other ridge where the lake covers. You could walk from that piece of property onto the Army Corps of Engineers owned property around the lake, which is about a good, I want to say quarter mile or so on either side. It had a good margin on either side. That was all Army Corps of Engineers, and then it went from there into the Mark Twain National Forest. Really, really pretty country. Vicky is just a hop, skip, and a jump away from there, where her 100-acre property is. Beautiful country, incidentally, but a shame about chrome getting into one of those lakes, because chrome is toxic. I mean, incredibly toxic. Horribly, horribly toxic. Hi, Kitty. So anyway, that's what's been on my mind this week. Thinking about that old dam up above us, upstream from us, and what would happen. And on the one hand, we like to contemplate the horrible, catastrophic destruction of a big mud flow coming down from Lake Keystone and washing over the town of Sand Springs. And I would hope, perhaps after that initial rush of water, the mud flow might back up a little bit and cause some of the water to divert into the feeder streams that are in between the lake and here, hopefully slowing that flooding down to the point where perhaps where I'm at does not suffer from catastrophic flooding, but you never know. It could happen. One of the things that I've noticed about the place where we're at here, if you go upstream, there is a creek called Bird Creek that connects to the Arkansas River. The Arkansas River runs to the south of me, and to the west here is where Bird Creek comes into the Arkansas River. If that creek were to back up, we've got a very high embankment, actually as high, if not higher, than the levees around the levee system around. Oh, Ginger's taking off. She said, okay, Daddy, we love you. Have a good night. Good night, Ginger. Good night, Jesse. All right. There's a good chance that some of that water is going to go up Bird Creek, and it runs around here to the north and then off over that direction. But it can back up quite a ways if we had that sort of a mud flow. That gives us a small chance that in the case of a catastrophic failure of Keystone Lake, we could be skipped by the flooding. Now, here's something that I've observed from living here for almost 20 years now. The large amount of thermal mass presented by Bird Creek over here, running around from the west to the north, and thermal mass provided by the river running to the south. The large amount of thermal mass causes an updraft. So as storms are moving through our area, They hit that updraft, and severe storms wind up experiencing a disruption. We still get the rain, that's not a problem. But we haven't had a problem with tornadoes. Even though we've seen them, they get to that boundary and they either veer off to the north or they veer off to the south. In either direction, we've got hills running on either side. So they are more likely to scoot over to the side and go on either on the north side of the hills or on the south side of the hills from the property, just with that wedge of thermal activity presented by the bodies of water that we have surrounding us. The thought that occurred to me is, what if we could take this principle and geoengineer, actually specifically and intelligently, intentionally create channels that would hold that water, that would hold that thermal mass, so that we can prevent severe storms from affecting habited areas. It might be interesting. Of course, you have to worry about flooding in lowland areas, which means if you're going across the plains, possibly a good idea would be to build up artificial hills, something like you might find in Illinois around Cahokia. You build the artificial hill up to the point where the place where you store your equipment and you have housing for people is up above the maximum possible level of flooding for the river valley, and then you don't have to worry about getting flooded out. Meanwhile, you have the entire river valley to work on as agricultural land, horticultural land, and you can produce food out of these river valleys. But right now, we have these really hastily constructed houses on cheap lots, which is what they built, and they're just a disaster waiting to happen, unfortunately. Let me see. Vicky says Beaver Lake is a major source of city water. The Army Corps of Engineers guards the water purity like eunuchs to the Sultan's harem. Oh, there you go. That's funny. Mary's saying if you're about the dam, you can have the passenger seat and pinky on the dash. Or if you're worried about the dam. Yeah, if I had notification that the dam was failing, what I'd probably do is grab whatever I could, hop in the truck, and immediately head east and try to get across the bridge, which is just to the north, before any surge got through. If I could get across that bridge up to the highway, providing I can get across the highway, I can make my way, maybe not the highway, go past the highway. There's probably about 2 or 3 miles off over this direction. There's an area where the land rises significantly, and there are a number of hills in this area, hills and deep valleys, which in the case of a major flooding event would become small islands. So I could make my way to the islands basically that are off over in that direction. Not too long ago, while driving around sort of scouting for possible property for sale, which I do periodically, I discovered that there's an area where we would have a bunch of islands. I thought it was kind of interesting. All right. Vicky says, my parents own 5 acres of lakeshore. Wow, that's quite a bit. 108 feet on Beaver Lake. The area is built up nearby to suburbia. Isn't that interesting? All right. And we have got a bunch of people just taking off for some reason. Is there another live stream going on that I need to know about? Take a look here. Maybe. What's that? All right. All right, so I think I probably am going to do my sketching and show you sort of an idea of a way that you could develop a river bottom if you had access to one. And I'll do that in detail probably next week, next Wednesday. A thought that occurred to me is if you had the opportunity to rebuild a hydroelectric power plant from scratch with a series of low water dams, you might be able to do some really interesting things with it. And yeah, that'll just keep until next week. I'll show you next week what I have in mind. Chris says, my mom is trying to move closer to me out in the sticks, and I'm trying to get her to buy this 35-acre property that is 5 minutes away from me for $85, but I haven't been able to convince her yet. Ron Helton says, still here? Nice. 35 acres is a lot of property. Good luck, moms are stubborn. You're going to find that unless you're young and spry, 5 acres is a lot. Actually, for me, a third of an acre is quite a bit for me to do with just basic hand tools and the occasional power tool, weed eater and lawnmower and chainsaw. There's some work involved if you want to maintain it. You'll wind up with a lot of bush, but even just a fraction of an acre is enough to provide food for yourself and your family. Vicky says, when I crossed Europe on the Orient Express, you did what? Residents were in walled towns above the fields and any chance of flooding. Yeah, you'd see things like that also in South America and in Mexico. Look at some of the old Mayan ruins, the way they built up above the surrounding area, and they paved underneath. They paved everything. So anytime there was flooding, if you could imagine this, if there was flooding, they could be making their way from one person's house to the next on boats across canals instead of just walking. But the world was much different looking 500 years ago in that portion of the world. Yeah, lots of work for an old lady, 35 acres. You can put a lot of trees on 35 acres. Yes, you can, depending upon where you're at. Okay, Chris is saying you think it's try to get her to the single acre that's closer for $45.50. Yeah, one single acre, depending upon how many people you're supporting. If you're just supporting one person, 1 acre is more than you need. I mean, it's way more than you need. And it's probably more than she's going to want to take care of either. So think about the amount of work that you're taking on. And if it's closer, that's another advantage. It's nice to have family close. Preferably within shouting range or close enough that you can ring a bell and you can hear each other. A lot around to us, Mary says. I think the concept of installing bells so that people in the neighborhood can communicate without needing telephones is a good idea. Just in case. But the ability to ring a bell and say, okay, ding, ding, I need some help over here, or ding, ding, you can work out a simple communications scheme so that you can bang on your bell at your house and the people nearby can know what you're trying to say. Could be useful. I think having a place where your mother's nearby and your son's nearby and you're able to keep multiple generations in close contact with each other is an excellent idea, because old people remember things. Old people remember things and can tell us things about the world before that might be useful to us in our particular trials of life. As far as the outdoors is concerned, she might have a fenced-off backyard, and that would be her baby. Yeah. Well, you want to be able to maintain the space that you're working with, whatever size of space it is. And sometimes just a small yard is all you need. Alrighty. So what we have going on out there? We still have a few people in the room. Does anybody have any questions, comments, complaints, things that they would like to point out, so on and so forth? While you do that, I'm going to pick up the guitar. John Conrad Farms finally got in. He's done with the church meeting. It went long. Nice, nice, nice. Vicky's considering setting up several Chinese greenhouses with subterranean walk-in refrigerator, freezer, and storage, rainwater catchment, and rent and trade. Of course, all of that costs money. And that's actually kind of the sort of idea that I had, too, incidentally. I wanted to set up little hobbit houses, I think, as like a bed and breakfast sort of attraction. I think that would be a wonderful thing to do, especially if you had a nice eastern-facing slope that you could dig out into high up. So you dig out into the eastern slope and you install the houses along the eastern slope. Down from the slope, you would have space that you have set up for a small lake. Obviously, if you're digging out to build the houses, you're going to have excess dirt from that dugout process, which lets you build up your banks around to make a nice little lake. That's Hobbiton. You've got your little houses on the hill and then a lake down there. It would make a very nice vacation spot, I would think, as long as you can get people to come out and spend the time there. Let me see. John says rainwater catchment's a good idea. Mary says lagging at 2 times speed. Oh, what are you doing at 2 times? Oh, are you playing catch up? She's playing catch up. Vicky's planning on having her own Archimedes screw micro hydropower generator. Nice. And will definitely have more than plenty of flow. Yeah. If you have some means of generating your power, and there's a couple of ways you can do it. Of course, you can have your own little micro hydropower generation, which is fun. You could also do things where you build up those little rental houses, each one being an individual unit. Of course, Airbnb, bed and breakfast storage setup, people would pay for them for the weekend. Go fishing on the little lake, be able to enjoy a nice little idyllic setting, kind of like taking a trip to Hobbiton in New Zealand, but not having to go all the way to New Zealand to do it. Not to mention you can actually stay in the Hobbit houses. I think that would be pretty cool. My dream of the area, if I was building it, would include a pub where the people can go and get their meals. Of course, I'd want to hire a good full-time chef to work the pub. I've got somebody in mind that I would have doing that particular job, but I suppose you could find your own person for that. And obviously a workshop on the other side of the property for Santa's little elves to make toys for the good little boys and girls of the world. There are a lot of different opportunities, I suppose you could say, with a setup like that. But all of it, does take money to invest in the first place. And of course, you have to have the property. So we are at 8:28 according to my clock here. So we're almost at an hour. I decided I'm not going to do the full song, just sort of play around with it a little bit as we come up on 8:30. Of course, people might recognize the tune. I'll sing a little bit. And if the daughter should break many years too soon, and if there is no room upon the hill, and if your head explodes with dark forebodings too, See you on the dark side of the moon. All right, good people, that's all I have for you today. As always, I hope you found this video informative or entertaining, and if you did, well, you know what to do. Hopefully I won't have to edit some of this video out due to the musical portion. As always, I'll catch you next time. For members, I might go ahead and just do the entire song and perform it and record it, and we'll see. And it'll be uncharged for members. I'll probably do one of those here in the next couple of days. Good night, everybody. Good night. Be good. Think about what you would do if you had a river bottom and could do anything you wanted to with it. And next week, I'll show you some ideas that I had for what you could do with a river bottom other than building massive hydroelectric dams, which will eventually fail and cause tremendous property damage. And I will catch you all next week. Until then, good night.